Hello YouTube, Infinite Magicraid community, Gandalf here. Welcome back to the channel, and we are testing the brand new hero, Vassili. As always, every Wednesday when new heroes come out, I prefer to test it in trials, really go through the different echoes and builds, just to get a good sense of how good this hero is. And, it's always one day to decide between, do we want the new hero or do we want to summon on the previous banner here if you're tied up between the two. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is damage wise, we have a brand new contender for the top bleed DPS. And the way I've tested it is both heroes actually have identical stats. I basically just synced up the stats against my lance, and then I replaced it with Vassili, or Vassili, however you want to pronounce his name. We all know when it comes to names that mean they are not a good match. Now, what makes Vassili really good as a solid bleed DPS really comes from the extraction passive. And you can get this actually even just at exclusive 1, where you're now doubling the mastery granted on each layer of extraction. You get extraction pretty fast. And of course, in PvP, you also get a little bit of benefits for the first 2 turns. It is your entire ally gets immunity to bleed damage on all allies. It almost makes him kind of counter Lance a little bit, because I know Lance tends to be like very much very strong in PvP early game, especially if you pair him up with Airto, which we will see very shortly. And now if you're playing Vassili into Lance, well, there just goes all of Lance's damage on turn 1 like that, right? That massive big AoE. Like early game, if you happen to pull Lance, it was completely, just unstoppable. However, right, this is where I'm going to, this is just doing business and power creep, guys. Like, Lance has pretty much been the staple hero. Everybody can get him now, probably by joining an old guild. You get the free selection chest, and everybody can get Lance. This doesn't make Lance bad. It just means Lance now officially get power crept by a brand new hero. So Vassili is going to out DPS Lance. Vassili gets stealth every turn automatically, so you can use him in the boss content. And just overall, he also has additional kit like going through damage immunity, right? If your enemy is able to do something like uses something like a Nordak and get ahead of Lance and put damage immunity on the entire team, well, Vassili has no problem cutting right through that. Vassili also, is a good matchup against Lance because Vassili's turn meter straight up cannot be reduced. So that's what I'll say so far. We'll come back to this shortly, but as a quick break, I do want to show you guys a couple of things. One, if you haven't checked out the patch yet, Icefield Ghost is now available for purchase with your rainbow crystals every single month. On top of that, you can buy Lydia as well. I'm glad they finally listened to us. We basically now have a 5th limited hero, and you can actually buy her separately from the hero selection chest. So you don't have to feel like, oh, well, I have to wait a whole month before I get another selection. You can buy her separately from the hero selection chest. And of course, I don't even have Icefield Ghost yet. So I'm glad they are doing something about this, right? Before we were just basically getting, Briar Phantom, the Poison Dragon, the Icefield Ghost, and Fire Quinlan. I would love for them to add Fire Quinlan and Briar Phantom to the shop as well. I know it's a stretch, but I hope they listen to us little by little and add these pets in here, because Dreamy Unicorn completely power creeps this, and it's about time you give all the free to play a little bit more option, especially getting an E5 Briar Phantom is going to be huge for players. All right, now let's go back to talking about some other patch notes just very briefly. When you go into battle, what you will notice, just a little bit lack of focus here. Sorry, I'm really sleepy. You will notice now that in battle, you actually have a little bit at the very bottom. You have the turn meter actually showing up. So as you go into battle, you can pay attention to where the enemy turn meter is. So all the spot are in the same square. So if you ever care about where the turn meter is a little bit, that will help you. I do feel like that does create a little bit of problem for people because you have turn meter as well as the stance value. So I'm not sure how that's going to impact. I guess the stance value will be shown as the percentage of here, but here's the turn meter at the bottom. But either way, I think everybody's fine. The turn meter is now showing up. So that's the other little thing on the patch I want to talk about. Let's go back to Vassili and just explain also his echo that is over here. This echo very much is damage focus, so increase skill damage, and this is going to help you reduce cooldown. It is not, you can't be like doing bleed 10 times. You can only get 1 time counted during 1 turn, so you can't reduce himself by doing like a whole bunch of turn meter that way. But either way, it is still nice to get a little bit of turn meter reduction, sorry, a turn cooldown reduction, allowing you to cycle all of his abilities just that much bit better. Especially if you're running like, you know, a 5 bleed team, and that's going to be, you know, very notable with that echo in the boss fight right there. All right, let's go back into the test. This is where I kind of want to showcase you in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And like I mentioned, unfortunately, it doesn't work the way I wanted to work. But if it did work the way we wanted to work, it will be quite broken. So let's just get him set up here. Restart battle. Line up. So first up, we're against Marie. And the reason why a lot of this doesn't work is because simply damage resistance, this is not exactly how it works. What they have done with kit like this, they have language that says exclusive to. See here it says all damage will be fixed to 1 point when they take damage. So this is not considered as damage resistance, is not considered as immunity. It simply converts all the damage they take to 1. So therefore you're not able to, you know, use Vassili to beat the enemy. Likewise, unfortunately, and as expected, you know, it does not work on Nicholas either. Let's battle. So you can see the enemy has started the battle with it, but all of those are still ones. Sorry. Let's just try that again slowly a little bit. Okay. Right, see all those extra ones, it's just not going through. All the damages, sorry. Let's just make sure this is working the way we expect it to work. Give her the higher tenacity. Your team tenacity, restart from current setting. Make sure everybody's at full HP. Let's give him as much attack as possible. All right, so the enemy, you see, has the shelter up. We're going to hit it as hard as you can, and you can see we're getting stopped again at that very first mark. Now, immediately at the beginning of her turn, she takes bleed, but the second part of it now kicks in. So this is now why it's important. But because her HP now is below that threshold, if we do manage to get another hit, she should die. Yeah. Okay. So what it does cut through, however, is immunity and things like, so let's just so that everybody's clear. Enemy, let's put in a couple here that do have immunity. So let's put in Nordak, let's put in Salter, for example. So Salter begins the battle. Everybody now has immunity, but guess what? Everybody's still going to die right through it. So ta-da, right? Kills right through the immortality. And that does not work. And here you can see there's damage immunity right there. Well, you know, no problem whatsoever. Chop, 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 and he is dead. So that is what he's good for. He's good for anti-immunity, damage immunity. So that's the buff from Nordak. He's also good at killing Immortal, but he will not work on limited heroes. Anything that says where, you know, it takes the damage, reduce it down to 1. That also includes things like Giselle's Echo. which reduces damage to 1. That's a different type of mechanic than damage resistance or immunity. So just so that everybody's on the page. So you can decide for yourself. Yes, he is a solid DPS. He's able to charge himself up due to his second skill around extraction, increases his own mastery. That's where all the extra damage is coming from. Very solid single target DPS. When it comes to his third exclusive, where it's about doing extra damage through all of this, yes, he hits very, very hard. He has the Resolute 2 up just like Lance, but I think the added bonus is it goes through targets, and I'll leave it to your decision between him versus Keratos, because in a recent video I also talked about Keratos being also very strong. Now, if you can afford all of it, go for it. Otherwise, both heroes are very solid DPS, but we do know that the summer is coming soon. I believe July or early June is when we see the next limited hero, so you can definitely consider saving up for that. In the upcoming banner, we also have Hyena coming up, so if you hadn't had a chance to get Hyena and you picked Tyrell in the recent box, Hyena is on the upcoming banner. I actually tried to get Keratos. You can see I actually summoned twice, and then now, you can see I'm actually guaranteed limited on my next one. I actually got a Jocelyn and a Had for those 2 miracles, and it's just unfortunate what it is, and I probably won't be summoning until the next limited hero. With that, I wish you all a great rest of your day wherever you're at, and I hope the information was helpful for you. If you like what I do here on this channel, please like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Gandalf out.